when it comes to immigration and Amnesty, where do you stand?
Sure. Well, we have to have, and look, I'm the daughter of an immigrant. My mother came here in 1948.
Mm-hmm.
So I am fully supportive of new Americans choosing to become citizens here. I think it's a wonderful thing. It's a great strength for our country. It has to be done in a way that makes sure that we do respect the folks who have chosen to go through our procedures and follow our laws, of course.
Like I assume your parents did. I know my relatives did.
Yes, my mother did, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And I know many, many friends and neighbors here in the Hudson Valley who have.
Mm-hmm.
We also do have enormous numbers, millions of children, in particular in the United States, when you talked about the Dreamers, who were brought to the United States when they were too young to make that decision for themselves. And I think we have to have great compassion for them. And I think we do have to have a way to bring people out of the shadows and to make sure that they can become, if they want to become productive citizens of this country, that they can do so with appropriate respect for the folks who have chosen to go through the process legally.
Okay.
So I think we have to have a way of
Well, what about
meeting those
Lincoln
needs.
Hall in Somers? We have been told and confirmed that a lot of the kids that came across the border in the last couple months are there.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me.
Right, and I was talking to somebody at Lincoln Hall, and they said that first of all, it's gotten a little out of hand because they're not prepared for this.
No.
A lot of the people who work at Lincoln Hall don't speak Spanish.
Right.
And that where these kids are going to go, they're actually looking to place them with families in the area.
Mm.
And the other concern is, well, these kids are going to have to go to school. They don't know how to speak English.
Right.
So then the schools, if this keeps going the way it's going, are going to have to deal, and that's going to, taxes on everyone's going to go up because you have to have new
Absolutely.
teachers and
Right.
language. It seems to me like a disaster.
This has been.
And why is this happening?
This reflects, regrettably, a real lack of leadership by the president, who has said and done things that have, unfortunately, led folks in these desperate circumstances in other countries to send their children here, thinking that somehow.
With all the aid
there'll
we
be a
send
way for
across the
them.
world,
Yep.
I think it's time that, and this is my opinion, you can comment on it, that we start, like Mexico and Central America,
Yeah.
we should try to help them make their country a little bit better so that people want to stay there. Because if we're going to spend money, that's what the goal should be. It shouldn't be we give them all the money and then they just send their people to us.
I agree.
don't think so. And it's not a racial thing. It's just we
It's
have our own
not.
problems. We can't take on the whole world.
Well, we do, you know what? We want a strong and prosperous and peaceful world. There's no
Right.
question about it. And when our economy is strong, when Americans are doing well, then they're great customers for the rest of the world.
Right.
They can do business with the rest of the world. We can have great trade that's fair. You know, we can have an even playing field because we're coming from strength. And yes, folks can live in their native countries and have the kind of life that they dream of. I couldn't agree more.
Yep.
So we have a president, and we had, again, when Nancy Pelosi, whom our current member of Congress supports for Speaker, when she was Speaker, we had a disastrous series of actions by the Congress, including a couple of very costly laws that have made life much harder for us in terms of our economy and jobs. One of them is, of course, the Affordable Care Act. You know, it's $1 trillion to insurers and bureaucrats, basically. I mean, that's what it is, coming from our Medicare reliant seniors, coming from all of us paying higher. You know, those of us who had insurance were told falsely that we could keep it.
Right.
We're paying much higher prices for our insurance. Why? Because we're, you know, again, we're funding the insurers and bureaucrats as part of this massive scheme out of Washington. The goal is the right goal. I've always said that. Everybody should have insurance they can afford. Everybody in this great country should have access to the best care. But it was the wrong way to do it. So that was one bad law. The Dodd-Frank law was another bad law. And our, you know, community lenders, you know, the folks.
Now those
who know
were things
us,
that came out of the Dodd-Frank came out for basically from the recession, right? They wanted
Well,
to.
it was a response
Yeah.
by the president,
Mhm.
misguided response by the president and by.
And you were not in office when
No,
that was passed.
no.
That was one of the first things that happened, right?
No, by the Pelosi-led Congress.
Yeah.
Why is it so hard to get a mortgage these days? Why is it so hard for our small businesses to get loans, for our, mom and pops on Main Street, or folks who want to get a car, or, do something more with their lives? Why is it so hard to get a loan? A lot of it's because of that big bad law.